What do you do when all you've got is some canned food in the pantry? Today we're going to make vegetable soup. This is Jackie from Motherwise, and I teach mothers how to get dinner on the table with less time, less effort, and less money. So let's get started with our ingredients list. You'll need some tomatoes. These are crushed. I also have a can of diced tomatoes because I like to have more than just juice, just some chunks of tomatoes. I've got a can of green beans. I like onions, so I'm going to use one of those. I've got some potatoes in my pantry. I don't have any canned corn, but I do have some frozen, and that's the way I like it in my vegetable soup. Plus, you'll need a big pot. If you want it to cook quicker, you need a lid. First, I'm going to peel and chop some potatoes. I'm going to wash them. So when you peel potatoes, it's easiest to start with a bowl. That way, you could just put your potato peelings down in your bowl and just throw them away when you're done. I like to start at one end and go all the way to the other end. Now they'll need to be washed again. Just rinsed off. I like to use whatever I have, but potatoes and corn are my favorites. I don't like to do without those when I'm having vegetable soup. I'm going to cut my potatoes in half, and then long ways, and then across. It's best if you want your food to cook at the same rate is to make all of your slices about the same size. I'm just going to put that right in my pot. If you're in a hurry for dinner, you can cut your pieces smaller. And if you have any pieces left over from last night's dinner, go ahead and add those to your soup. I like to trim the cut edges off of my onion. Because onions absorb toxins from the air. I'm going to cut my onion in about the same size pieces as my potatoes. Make sure you rinse and wipe the rim of your cans, because if there's anything on there, you don't want that getting into your food. I don't like the flavor of green bean juice in my soup, so I'm going to drain this. And because I really love onion, and I only had 2 very small pieces, I'm going to add some more. Vegetable soup is very easy to do. You can do it with whatever vegetables you like. And if you have more of one vegetable than the other, then just use it. If you have leftovers from the freezer, then go ahead and put those in your soup. And then you can add to it with what you've got. Tomatoes are absolutely essential, though, for the juice. Although you could use chicken broth or a beef broth. Sometimes I like to cook a pound of ground beef and add that to my soup. But if you do that, you'll want to add that at the end, after your ground beef is already cooked. And I add it with the grease that cooked off of it. I use maybe an 85%, and the grease makes the soup more flavorful. I would use some fresh carrots, but I appear to be out of them at the moment. And I prefer fresh vegetables, like my potatoes and onions, but not green beans. I like a can of green beans. But you can use canned potatoes, canned green beans, canned corn, canned peas, canned carrots, whatever that you have that you like. I'm very frugal, so I want to get all of that out of there. Now this is kind of thick, so I'm going to add a can of water. So I've just filled up this can with water, and I'm going to add that to dilute my soup. I'm going to use a big spoon and just stir this up. Now my frozen corn I don't want it to be hard, so I'm going to add that at the last moment. But all of this can cook together, and it doesn't take very long. For seasonings, you can add whatever you like, but I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt. Tomatoes need lots of salt. I'm going to add a teaspoon of my home-dried basil from my front porch. I'm going to place this on my big burner, and I'm going to turn it to high and let it come to a boil. Now, if you want it to boil faster, cover it with a lid. After most of your vegetable soup is gone, if you want to extend it, all you have to do is add like another can of tomatoes and a few more cans of food. It's always great to have soup for a side dish in these cold winter months. It's a great starter, especially something to have in the refrigerator that's quick and easy to go to. It's great to pack for your lunch, and if you use frozen vegetables, it's very nutritious. My soup is boiling, and so I'm going to reduce it to medium and leave the lid on it. I've checked my potatoes and they're still hard, but my onions are nice and soft. But I want my potatoes to be done before I add anything else. If you're using fresh carrots, celery, and onions, you may want to go ahead and saute those in some butter to start. I've checked my potatoes and they are still not soft. Plus, they don't have much flavor. And potatoes need salt. So I'm going to add another teaspoon of salt. I'll give it a few minutes and then I'll check it again. Make sure you keep it stirred because you don't want anything to get stuck to the bottom and burn. So maybe every 10 or 15 minutes, give it a good stir. Especially if you're cooking it on high, you'll want to make sure that it doesn't burn. Always try to use a timer, either on the stove or on your phone, to make sure that time doesn't slip by you and you burn your dinner. My timer went off, so let's look and see. Everything looks nice. I'm going to take a potato, and my fork went straight into it really nicely. and easily, so that means they're probably done. So let me just taste it. I still don't think there's enough salt in there, so I'm going to add another teaspoon. Always be careful when you use your salt. You don't want to over salt, so just go a little bit at a time. My potato had no salty flavor, so I'm going to add a whole teaspoon. And I know that seems like a lot. That's a tablespoon and 2 teaspoons. But you've got other vegetables in here, and the potatoes really have to have salt in order to be flavorful. I'm going to go ahead and add my corn. And I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to look and see. So stir it up, and if you see lots of corn in there, and that looks alright to you, that looks like enough corn. See, I've got corn in all my bites. But I have probably only less than a cup left, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the rest, because I really like corn in my vegetable soup. And you can add as much as you like. A lot of recipes say like 1 cup of this and 1 cup of that and 1 cup of the other, or 1 can of everything. But I kind of like to have a little bit of soup left over after one meal. So that looks nice to me. I'm going to let that cook 5 more minutes. Vegetable soup is so easy. Just add what you've got. Make sure you have tomatoes or tomato juice for your base. Sherry cooking wine is my secret ingredient. It really makes things flavorful. And all you need is a little bit. This is 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to add that to my soup. It's not required, but it does make it very flavorful. So here is our finished soup. Load up my bowl. So here's my nice hot bowl of vegetable soup. So let's give it a taste. Everything is nice and flavorful. The corn, the potatoes, everything is soft and delicious. If you watch till the end, then put in the comments what my secret ingredient was. Check out some of my family's other favorite soups, potato and chicken noodle soup. This is Jackie from Motherwise, and remember, dinner's at 6.